Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salamu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'een. Amma ba'd. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has laid down for us the types of things that we can consume. And He has also laid down the methods for acquiring items, possessions, food, drink, transport. In other words, how to earn. So on one side, there are things that Muslims can consume and things that they cannot consume. On the other side, there are ways through which Muslims can earn and ways that they cannot earn. One of the verses that summarizes all of this earning, is in the 5th juz in Surah An-Nisa. Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu la ta'kulu amwalakum bainakum bil batil illa an takuna tijaratan an taradin minkum. O believers, don't acquire wealth from each other. لا تأكلوا أموالكم بينكم. Don't use or acquire or obtain wealth from each other بالباطل, in any way that is not sanctioned, in any way, any method, any transaction, any business, terms and conditions that are not valid in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All of these have been summarized with one word, and that is al-batil. So what does batil mean here? Obviously, literally, batil means that which is false, that which has no basis, that is batil. In transactions and earnings, and specific to the context of this verse, batil refers to all of those means of earning which are haram. So for example, gambling is a means of earning, but it is haram. Similarly, selling something which is not permissible is also, those sales are also about it. If someone were to selling liquor, somebody were to start selling pork, this would be taking the wealth of people through a batil means, because what you're giving them is not sanctioned for you to use as a means of earning. Similarly, if somebody were to steal, if somebody were to scam and have these elaborate schemes of somehow conning people out of their money, any form of tricking someone, deceiving someone, giving someone the wrong impression, and thereby taking money from them, all of these are included in batil. Then it goes a little bit further. Sometimes what happens is that the means of earning seems to be valid. A person has, for example, a job which is allowed. A person is engaging in a business. If you look at the business, what that person is selling or what that person is providing, it is halal. But they must also look at the way they are conducting their business. So a person who is conducting a valid business, but is using methods that are not agreed to by Islam, by the Quran, by the Hadith of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this is also included in aklu amwal an-nas bil batil. Once the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was passing through the market, and there were stalls of grains. So as he passed by one of the stalls, he put his hand into one of the piles of grain. And when he withdrew his hand, he had some seeds in his hand, some grain, and it was wet. So he asked the owner of that stall, that, what is this? He said, O Prophet of Allah, asabahu al-matar. It rained, and so it got wet. The Prophet ﷺ said, if that is the case, then you should have put that wet grain on top so people could see it. Because now people are going to take grain from you you're going to scoop it out, or they will scoop it out themselves using the different vessels, and they're not able to see that the grain inside is wet. So little do they know that after 1 or 2 scoops, they're about to get wet grain, and the wet grain, obviously, it spoils very quickly. It's not in the same of the same quality as the dry and well-preserved grain. So what happened here is that the business itself is valid. The substance being sold is also valid, but there is a little bit of, you can say, dishonesty or concealing of a fault. The merchandise is faulty, it is flawed, but a person is concealing it and passing it off as if it is perfectly fine. This is also included in aklu amwal an-nasi bil batil. Let's give another scenario where there is a deal between 2 people, but a person lays down such a condition which is not sanctioned. They're imposing a condition as a part of that sale, such a condition which Islam does not agree to. So for example, selling someone, I'll give you an extreme example, and then we can have some other examples as well. Someone sells a car, sells the car, takes the payment, but while he was selling the car, he says, I'll sell you the car that I'm not going to hand it over to you. I'll sell it to you. I'm going to keep it for myself for 1 month, for 2 months, for 3 months. Now this condition that the person has stipulated is it's against the nature of a sale. The nature of sales is that you sell something and you hand it over to the person that you're selling it to, and that's the end of it. You give them possession of it so that they can use it. Obviously, they're paying for it so that they can use it. But here, it looks like the person is exploiting the other person's need. He knows that this person desperately needs this car, and he is ready to pay up front. But now, I've transferred ownership, which means I've transferred the liability to that person, but I'm keeping the usage for myself. This is an example of it's an extreme example of an unfair condition. Similarly, a person who sells something on the condition that you will not be allowed to inspect, not to see it in any way, shape, or form, nor am I going to give you a description of it, but you have to buy it from me as I described to you. Now, there is so much room here for mistakes, errors, concealing faults and defects. Islam does not want any kind of condition in a sale, in a deal, that could possibly lead to a dispute between the 2 parties. So any condition that is ingrained in the contract, in the deal itself, which could possibly lead to a dispute, it renders the sale problematic, faulty, or even invalid from the Islamic perspective. So if there's someone that's making money like this, then there is a problem with their earnings. The other thing is to be fair and upfront about things like merchandise and also things like payment. Sometimes the payment is deferred, but there is no fixed time that has been set for that repayment. So what happens is that one party is expecting the payment to be made suddenly or immediately, and the other party is saying, well, it wasn't stipulated, so now I have lots of time. I'll pay this in 1 month, in 2 months, in 3 months. So here also you can see that this is a perfect setup for a dispute where one party is going to be extremely frustrated and the other party is not going to comply. You're going to have a dispute. Islam does not like these things. That's why in Surah Al-Baqarah, the verses are very, very clear. It's the longest verse in the Quran, the ayah of Dain. And it comes right towards the end of the surah. Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu, idha tadayantum bidainin ila ajalin musamma. Whenever you have a transaction where something is deferred for later, either the payment for the merchandise, for the commodity is deferred till later, or the merchandise itself is to be handed over and delivered at a later time, write it down. Write down things like time periods, what is owed, what are the deliverables, what are the payments, in what form will they be made. Sometimes this is also an issue that creates problems. One party is expecting a payment in one form and the other party is expecting to pay in another form. There are many forms of payment today. Someone is paying through debit card or through credit card or by cash or by direct online transfer of funds. There's so many ways to pay. It needs to be clarified upfront. But this verse is stipulating that, look, make sure there is no unfairness in your earnings. And there is another way of aklu amwal nas bil batil. And this has to do with jobs. So a person is hired to do a certain job, a certain function for a certain period of time. And the terms and conditions of the employment are laid out. These are the expectations from the employer, and these are the duties of the employee. Now, if the employee works honestly and uses that time for what they're being paid for during that time, then the earning is good. It's halal and it's tayyib, and there will be khair and there will be barakah in it. Someone asked the Prophet ﷺ, Ayyul kasbi atyab, which type of earnings are the best or the purest, the finest? So the Prophet ﷺ said, Amalul rajuli biyadihi wa kullu bay'in mabrur. That a person works with their own hands, does something with their own hands, whether it's in the form of a trade, it's a form of a service that they provide, it's something that they do, or it's sales and transactions that are governed by piety and honesty. Kullu bay'in mabrur. So now this person is taking money as in the form of a salary for doing a certain function, but they're using that time for something that is not a part of that deal. So they're taking the payment, but they're not doing what they're supposed to do for that time. This is something very dangerous and very risky. And before we do anything else in the time that has been designated for work, we should check. We should find out, is this okay or is it not okay? Some jobs have a lot of flexibility. Hours are flexible. You do it on your own time. As long as you get certain things done, the employer is satisfied. Some jobs are such that, no, in a certain amount of time, from this time to this time, such and such function needs to be done, and that some jobs are clear. Some jobs are somewhere in between being flexible and being very rigid. So we should find out what are the expectations from the employer's side. And when we do that, inshallah, it will increase, first of all, it will increase our respect in the sight of our employer, because they will know that we don't want to misuse the opportunities that we have. One of the reasons why this discussion is so important is that right now a lot of people are working from home because of the current circumstances. So fine, alhamdulillah, we're working from home. It's an opportunity. For some people it's easier, for some people it's actually more difficult to work from home, and some people are working in between. Whatever the case is, we should find out what the expectations are. Now that I'm working from home, does that mean I can work within my own hours and get things done? Or do I still, from this time to this time, I have to be at my desk or at my computer or doing whatever it is that I'm being paid to do? We should find out the details, because ultimately, whatever we earn, it has an impact on us. It has an impact on those that we are feeding with that income. Our families, our children. It's one of the things I have heard from many of my teachers and elders, that the morsel that we are feeding ourselves and our families, it needs to be watched very, very carefully, especially in this day and age when there are so many minute things that introduce doubt into what it is that we're doing. And it's always better to err on the side of caution. It's always better to take a little bit less, but make sure that it's halal and tayyib, than to take more and then have it mixed with something that is not appropriate. So these are some of the teachings that come out of this particular verse. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable us to earn in a way that is pleasing to Him, and put barakah in our earnings. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect our earnings from wrong sources and from incorrect elements and factors. Remember that whatever we consume and we use, this will affect the acceptance of our worship. It will affect the acceptance of our du'as as well. And this is a month of du'as and a month of worship. We want all of it to be accepted. So it's a good idea, while we are introspectively looking at ourselves and assessing things and fixing our dealings with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's also important to assess this part of our lives. May Allah Azza wa Jal give us tawfiq. Allahumma anta as-salam wa minka as-salam. تبارك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. جزا الله عنا نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ما هو أهله. اللهم ندعوك الله وندعوك الرحمن وندعوك البر الرحيم وندعوك بأسمائك الحسنى كلها علمنا منها وما لم نعلم. اللهم لك الحمد كما ينبغي لجلال وجهك وعظيم سلطانك. اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا. اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا. اللهم اغفر لنا ما قدمنا وما أخرنا وما أسررنا وما أعلنا وما أنت أعلم به منا. أنت المقدم وأنت المؤخر وأنت على كل شيء قدير. اللهم اغفر لنا جدنا وهزلنا وخطأنا وعمدنا وكل ذلك عندنا. اللهم اغفر لنا وللمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات. ربنا اغفر لنا ولإخواننا الذين سبقونا بالإيمان ولا تجعل في قلوبنا غلا للذين آمنوا ربنا إنك رؤوف رحيم. اللهم وفقنا لما تحبه وترضى. اللهم إنا نسألك الهدى والتقى والعفاف والغنى. اللهم آنس وحشتنا في قبورنا. اللهم ارحمنا بالقرآن العظيم واجعله لنا إماما ونورا وهدى ورحمة. اللهم ذكرنا منه ما نسينا وعلمنا منه ما جهلنا. ارزقنا تلاوته آناء الليل وآناء النهار واجعله لنا حجة يا رب العالمين. اللهم اجعل القرآن العظيم ربيع قلوبنا ونور صدورنا وجلاء أحزاننا وذهاب همومنا وغمومنا يا رب العالمين. اللهم إنا نسألك من الخير كله عاجله وآجله ما علمنا منه وما لم نعلم، ونعوذ بك من الشر كله عاجله وآجله ما علمنا منه وما لم نعلم. اللهم ارفع مقتك وغضبك عنا. اللهم ارفع مقتك وغضبك عنا. اللهم ارفع مقتك وغضبك عنا. اللهم ارفع عنا هذا الوباء وارفع عنا هذا البلاء برحمتك يا عزيز يا غفار. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. آمين.